August 22nd, and the center of Moscow has been blown up. Drones are attacking Moscow, the city center, and the Moscow suburbs. This is some kind of tragedy right now. Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings. There's a fire. Here are the fragments. There's an apartment on fire over there. It exploded so loudly, it was terrifying. I just managed to run away in time. Everything's burning, apartments on fire, people screaming, large-scale evacuation. It's just horrible. God forbid anyone ever goes through this. Muscovites are screaming. They're going to shoot me right now. Please!
Come here, please.
At Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo, a carpet regime has been introduced. Takeoffs and landings are banned. There's panic and evacuation there. The SBU has launched a new phase of the Special Operation Web. Military equipment convoys have been blown up. And also, the Navy destroyed a boat of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. It was blown up. Boom, bada boom! We'll discuss the attacks on the Black Sea Fleet, military airfields, convoys with tanks, fuel, and equipment, as well as the explosions in Moscow and the Moscow region with Alexander Demchenko right now.
The Ukrainian Armed Forces are again attacking Moscow, its city center, and the Moscow region. Drones are crashing into high-rise buildings thanks to Russian electronic warfare, of course. There's a fire, apartments are burning, people are screaming, and a large-scale evacuation is underway. At Vnukovo and Sheremetyevo airports, the carpet plan has been implemented, and takeoffs and landings are prohibited. There's already a massive collapse at passport control in Vnukovo. There are huge crowds of passengers there. Everyone is sobbing and crying because no one can depart. People are arguing, almost fighting, according to Russian social media channels. Trainloads of fuel and military equipment have been blown up. The Navy has destroyed a boat belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian forces struck a boat off the western coast of Kherson with an attack on the Atlas oil depot. For the first time in a long while, we are attacking an oil refinery. Let's discuss the new special operations by the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Main Intelligence Directorate, and Security Service of Ukraine with top analyst Alexander Demchenko right now. Sasha, welcome.
Hello, Dasha. So what about the planes? Tell me, what about the airfields and airports? What's going on with Vnukovo? Just now, Maliuk came out and said that, yes, there was a planned attack on the Security Service of Ukraine. There was a planned explosion at the SBU headquarters on Volodymyrska Street in Kiev. What does it mean? It means that the Ukrainian Security Service and probably Ukrainian intelligence are preparing major explosions, preparing attacks on decision-making centers. I don't know if there will be an explosion on Lubyanka Square. I somehow doubt that they will blow up Lubyanka specifically. But for some reason, it's likely that the General Staff or the Zarbata on Frunzenskaya and a number of other strategically important decision-making centers will be blown up, or there will be some kind of sabotage. Let's unite, show support, leave likes and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Dasha's YouTube channel and to Dmitry Gordon's YouTube channels, where all of this is also being published. But what's very important, Dasha, is that, of course, there will be a response. The Special Operation Web 2 is ongoing and will continue. I can just feel it with every fiber of my being. I don't even know. With my gills, my nerves, my gut feeling, whatever you call it, I just sense that very soon there will be Web 2. I don't know what will go up in flames. Will it be Putin's plane? Will there be an explosion of Putin's plane, or will they blow up Shoigu or the elimination of Medvedev, who recently started threatening Trump and Putin? I even heard that Putin beat him up at night. Putin's security beat up Medvedev. Well, what do you expect? After making such statements, the drunk one started talking about how he almost told Trump that he would hand over nuclear missiles to Iran. Trump started threatening him, and apparently Putin just snapped. He had already been shaking for several days in a row. I can see that the special operation will continue. I've told you repeatedly that the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ukrainian intelligence, the intelligence community, and Ukrainian security forces in general are creating conditions that destroy any potential of the Russian army's military technical capabilities in order to block and neutralize Russian offensive actions in various directions. This includes Donbass, the southeast specifically, and of course the northern direction, where Putin wants to take Sumy, where Putin wants to create the so-called sanitary zone. Although at this point he needs to call for orderlies, and if not for himself, then for all his associates, including Medvedev and the rest. But the fact that everything has come to a standstill, the fact that Sobyanin is shouting, Sobyanin, who has already been in and out of intensive care twice after strokes, these are the kinds of news that are absolutely logical and consistent. Ukraine is consistently striking military targets. They've started striking oil refineries again, as you mentioned. But it was Russia that first violated this so-called energy truce just recently. And in the Sumy region, they strike, leaving people without electricity and water. And in the Lviv region, they recently struck Lviv, leaving people without electricity and water. They are hitting energy infrastructure. So why the hell shouldn't Ukraine strike these energy facilities in return? It's obvious that any truce has been broken. It's clear that the so-called energy pause has also been disrupted, that Trump got busy with other things, started leaking or shifting something, and so on. That's it. This means the board has been flipped over and that Ukraine has resumed strikes on oil refineries. And against the backdrop of the worsening economic crisis in Russia, listen, Russia's Minister of Economic Development, Reshetnikov, had the nerve, such audacity to come out and say it straight to Putin. The country is in recession. Take cover. It's over for everyone. Well, how can someone be so brazen? To say such terrifying words in front of the president of Russia, words incomprehensible to the Russian people. Recession. What kind of un-Russian word is that? He should have just said, the economy is done for, we're screwed, that's it, for the Russian Federation. And they've calculated it precisely, yes, that by the end of this year, that's it. After that, they can't go on. If oil stays like this, even if Trump is like this, if the sanctions are like this, if Ukraine keeps resisting like this, then that's it. After all, we need to understand, over the past few days, we've seen a whole series of these different news stories, right? The news that comes to us. An attempt on Zelensky's life in Poland was foiled. An attempt on Yermak's brother was foiled. An attempt on Dmytro Gordon was foiled. Why? Because apparently Putin has realized that he can't do anything about Ukraine. He can't take Ukraine. So that means he needs to eliminate the leadership and stir everything up from the inside, create some kind of chaos here inside Ukraine. He can't do it any other way, and he won't be able to. He realized that he's stuck. He realized that it has all failed. He realized that the summer offensive wouldn't give him anything except some PR. Well, listen, World War II lasted 4 years right here, on this territory, if we're talking about after the attack on the Soviet Union. It went on much longer. Some people count from 39. I count from 32 or 33, but that's not important. For 4 years, a major war was fought right here on this post-Soviet territory. And what was the result? Berlin. But here, damn it, what does he have? 3.5 years. And in reality, this mess has been going on much longer, stuck in this swamp. Russians are dying in droves, and he sends these corpses to Ukraine so he doesn't have to bury them himself or spend money on them. Not a penny, not a kopeck. And in the end, he can't really do anything. He can't do anything. That's why what we're seeing now, and we'll see even more of it going forward, Vnukovo will be blown up, and the fleet will blow up again, some other one next time. They're threatening with the Baltic fleet over there, but they'll blow it up to hell or sink their own fleet. They don't care. And they'll have problems in Crimea and in Sibir. If Siberia has already gone up in flames once, why do we think it won't happen a second time? Well, everything always repeats itself. The show just goes on as usual. A good show gets performed several times. Then it's premiere after premiere after premiere. You know how it is, right? A good show can have a premiere 3 or 4 times. It's the same here. There will be Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and Web 4. It's not for nothing that Malyuk came out and said there was an attempt to destroy the main headquarters, the main SBU office in Kyiv. A director, the head of such a service, doesn't just say things like that for no reason. This means a response is being prepared, and it means that the response will target the most important decision-making centers.
Sasha, what is your opinion on the strikes and the destruction of the Russian Black Sea Fleet's boat? Because it's reported that since the beginning of the war, Russia has already lost 28 ships and boats due to threats. The Russian fleet is withdrawing from occupied Sevastopol. The main forces are now in Novorossiysk, and only submarines remain in Crimea. I would really like us to eliminate all the ships in Novorossiysk and all the submarines, of course.
I'm not laughing because of the boat. Dasha, the boat is of course very good. It's a big achievement. In general, any strike and sinking of a boat, the destruction of an aircraft is very difficult. The destruction of an entire train of tanks, like what happened recently, right? They wiped out an entire train of Russian tanks. That's a huge achievement. 41 aircraft is enormous. It's a legendary achievement. I'm laughing for another reason. Who commands the boats in Russia? Nikolai Platonovich Patrushev. So we've talked about Putin having a stroke, a heart attack, and Sobyanin having 2 strokes. I think after losing another boat, Patrushev is already in intensive care with a stroke or heart attack. Like everything just short-circuited for him. Well, damn, they screwed up the Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine doesn't have a fleet. The sea is blockaded. The fleet really had been degrading from the very beginning, ever since independence. Just kept degrading and degrading. Russia kept trying to cut it up, destroy it. Well, they did everything. Occupied Crimea, did it all, blockaded the Sea of Azov and part of the Black Sea. And then Ukraine went and destroyed the Russian Federation's fleet in the Black Sea. Well, all right. Where is Ukraine and where is the Pacific Ocean? Where is the Desantnaya Bay? Well, they marched, they traveled tens, hundreds of thousands of meters, kilometers. They made it there and blew it to smithereens. The Russian Pacific Fleet, the strategic fleet, damn it, the nuclear triad, my friends. Now they're shouting that the Baltic Fleet will be sunk. They'll sink it themselves. They'll do everything themselves out of their own stupidity. Narishkin and Patrushev together. But who is to blame for this? Who commands the entire navy and oversees these matters in Putin's administration? Patrushev. So what? Where are the results? Just sinkings, nothing but sinkings. He sent him there out of spite, so that he wouldn't try to seize power and push his own son in there. Well, fine, he sent him, and that's that. He was supposed to oversee one fleet, another, a third, a fourth, and so on. Well, all right, the cruiser Moskva sank. Let's say, for example, that's not Patrushev's fault, although he was the Secretary of the Security Council at the time. Well, what about now? This is your area of responsibility. And over there, things are on fire. Over there, things are sinking. And over there, bridges are being blown up. And where are you? I'll tell you where. He's busy with agriculture. He's sending all that. He's sending expensive potatoes to Lukashenko. He's taking potatoes from Lukashenko's cellars and so on. But the most interesting thing is something else. He has Roselkhozbank. Patrushev does. And so does his son. What is Roselkhozbank, for those who don't know? Roselkhozbank is the main cesspool in Russia through which all the money is laundered, all the foreign currency, because it's not under sanctions, and the Europeans and Americans don't want to put it under sanctions. Well, that's what he's busy doing, laundering money for himself and for Putin. And recently he also took over Domodedovo. Well, okay, so you say that Domodedovo has a plan carpet? Who has the carpet plan? Where is this Aladdin sitting? Nikolai Platonovich. Here. And there's a monkey named Boo running around somewhere, some other monkey of his own. Dima Medvedev, who drunkenly shouts every single day that he has some kind of nuclear warhead for this or that country. He has a nuclear bomb for Ukraine, he has a nuclear bomb for Iran, he has a nuclear bomb for Trump. At this rate, he'll end up with a nuclear bomb falling in his own backyard. But the problem is something else, Dasha. You see, we joke around like this, but there's another point. Recently, they've started talking about a dirty bomb. Have you noticed Putin has started bringing it up? A dirty bomb. Ukraine is supposedly making one. I'll do everything to make sure Ukraine doesn't strike. I hope they won't strike. First of all, Ukraine doesn't have the technology right now to make, at least for Putin, a dirty bomb. Although, to be honest, it's not so much a bunker as a portable toilet I'd like to put him in. But just imagine the headline. Putin's portable toilet blown up. The whole Kremlin covered in crap. But Dasha, that's not the point. The point is something else. Look, I'm glad to see you smiling. See, I've managed to lift your spirits a bit today. I hope I've done the same for you, dear viewers, my friends. So the thing is, they're probably going to escalate the situation. They're probably, so to speak, telling all of us, look, we're preparing a provocation involving something nuclear. And what kind of nuclear provocation could they be preparing? Well, they need their own nuclear power plants. But there are others as well. For example, the Zaporizhzhia plant. I'm worried that in the near future, they might try to stage another act of sabotage, a provocation, an arson, an explosion, or some kind of shelling of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in order to use it for blackmail. But if Trump was able to strike, as they believe, not with nuclear weapons, but with weapons deadly to nuclear arsenals, bombs, the most powerful and lethal aerial bombs in the world, from B-2 bomber planes, then that means we can do it too. That's where the talk about a dirty bomb comes from. That's the way out. Aha, look, we're mass producing the Oreshnik now. Now we're going to use the Oreshnik. We're going to strike Kyiv or wherever else he decides to hit with his Oreshnik. Will it reach the target or not? We don't know. But why, if Trump is allowed, then I can do it too. That's what Vladimir Putin thinks. You see? He didn't finish off Iran, even though he could have, and maybe he should have. If he had finished them off, then it would have been the end for Putin too. But these guys thought, aha, he didn't finish them off. So if we hit with the Oreshnik, or if we launch a dirty bomb, or pull off some other nuclear stunt, then nothing will happen to us either. Nothing happened to him, so nothing will happen to us either. And why not? That's what Vladimir Putin is thinking to himself. And here's the most important question. When Donald Trump was negotiating with Lukashenko about Iran, when he was setting all this up, How exactly would Donald Trump react in the event of such provocations from the Kremlin? After all, it's obvious to everyone there, to all those guys in the Kremlin, that yes, events are accelerating, they're pushing everything forward, because there are no achievements, nothing to sell, and they need to do something. They need to do something massive, something big and significant, so that, everything turns upside down, so that Trump gets the message, let's sit down, sign everything, and stop shooting, just like with Israel and Iran. They were winning, the Israelis, but then he stepped in and said, let's keep everything as it is. I destroyed 3 factories there, and that's enough. And the fact that they took some of the missiles out, and the fact that Putin, I'm already sure of it, Dasha, Putin has now made a decision. Last night, even during the night, he decided to help Iran create nuclear weapons. He needs this. He needs a precedent. He needs another North Korea in the region, but in a different place. You understand? This is the world we live in, a world where someone strikes once and thinks that's enough. But in reality, they could have finished the job and didn't, just like with Putin.
Friends, please like this video. In the comments, write a few kind words in support of Ukraine. Tell us where you're watching from and share your thoughts about these news and the information from Alexander Demchenko. And a very important point, Sash. I just remembered the words of Andriy Yermak, who made a statement that Ukraine has already tested ballistic missiles and is preparing to launch these ballistic missiles into mass production. This is supposed to happen in the near future. He didn't specify exactly when, but he said that the ballistic missiles have already undergone successful tests at the front. And considering that Moscow and St. Petersburg are military targets, they're asking us to attack them. And Garbulin also gave an interview to the BBC where he said that Ukraine should, among other things, have nuclear weapons, and Ukraine can mass produce ballistic missiles. How do you feel about the prospect of Ukrainian ballistic missiles attacks on military targets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, making it so that Russians simply can't live their lives?
I think ballistic missiles will appear in the near future. I think Ukraine will launch ballistic missiles at military targets, including in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Leningrad region, and Moscow region. All of this will happen. And of course, this will ruin all of Vladimir Putin's plans. You shouldn't think that Ukraine will engage in terrorism. Unlike Russia, we do not commit acts of terror on their territory, but as for military targets, of which there are many, spread across the vast territory of the Russian Federation, those strikes will happen. Ukraine will soon have those missiles, long range and other types, that will in one way or another replace the shells, the ammunition, the missiles that Germany, the United States, and a number of other countries have not yet provided us in sufficient quantities, or have not given permission to use these missiles to strike certain military targets. And this will already be a Ukrainian development. As for nuclear weapons, Dasha, officially Ukraine will not have nuclear weapons. Obviously, we don't want to get ourselves into a situation like Iran's. We understand perfectly well that even at the beginning of Israel's nuclear developments, the Americans imposed sanctions. The Americans were against it. They restricted, did not transfer aircraft, took back American F-16s, by the way, at that time. All of that happened. That's why we shouldn't get involved in this. But officially, it won't happen. Israel also didn't do anything officially. But if you're being threatened by a bandit who isn't just holding a pistol, but a nuclear pistol, what are you going to do? If America is constantly being ripped off, if all of Europe is melting and just waiting for a call from America, what are you going to do? So when we, for many, many years, said that Ukraine would repeat the Israeli scenario in one form or another, in one way or another, we were right. All those guys who said so. For one simple reason, there just isn't any other option. I'm not calling for the creation of anything. I'm just thinking logically. I always think logically. If you're facing a nuclear club, you have to defend yourself with something. So you need to have a little nuclear stone or some kind of opposing, well, something else to counter it, let's say, a kind of medicine for this disease. That's the first thing. Second, obviously, as I keep saying, Israel also officially has nothing. It hasn't signed any treaties on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. It doesn't hold any conferences. In Dimona, they've got, 90 or however many missiles sitting there. And that's enough for them to make sure there's no Iran nearby, no nuclear threats against them, and that no one threatens them with anything. And the Americans have sided with Israel, not just now, but for the last 10 or 20 years, regardless of the aid and so on, for many, many decades. Why did they side with them? Well, when you have an ally who has everything and the newest, most advanced technology, who can conquer the airspace of a country in just a few days, a country that's, well, as big as 4 Germanys and France's put together in terms of territory. So why wouldn't you side with them? That's why I think as soon as Ukraine gets very powerful weapons, I'm not talking about nuclear, I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I've never advocated for that. I actually believe that the most wonderful world is a world without nuclear weapons. One of the biggest mistakes was the creation of nuclear weapons. But as soon as Ukraine gets modern weapons, truly modern forces and resources, as soon as it becomes clear to everyone that Ukraine can independently stand up to any neighbor, and not just neighbors, no matter who it is, no matter what country it may be, then we won't have any problems with allies, or with money, or with funding, or with military programs, or with the economy. No one, everyone will shut up about corruption and anti-corruption, damn it. And everyone will be talking about how good, beautiful, strong, and developed Ukraine is. Because Ukraine will have everything it needs to, if necessary, rattle its keychain, in front of whichever face it needs to.
Friends, let us know in the comments what you think about Alexander Demchenko's latest statements. We work for an audience all over the world, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is priceless. Sash.
And friends, also write how much you like our duet with Dasha, because we work like a tractor every single time. Right, Dash?
Sasha plus Dasha is our new format, which comes out every week on my channel and on Dmitry Gordon's channel. They used explosives twice, each time with 1,100 kilograms. The head of the SBU on the third strike against the Crimean bridge. The SBU struck the Crimean bridge for the first time in 2022 using a vehicle loaded with 21 tons of explosives in TNT equivalent. And in 2023, it was attacked by 2 SBU Sea Baby combat drones over water, and the third time underwater. We used 100 kilograms of explosives, and then another 100 kilograms, so twice 100 kilograms each, on the key supports of the illegal structure, said SBU head Malyuk. Sash, so when will the Kerch bridge finally collapse? The main news, of course, will be its destruction.
Well, whenever it does collapse, in any case. We all understand perfectly well that anything installed illegally by the occupational authorities will collapse sooner or later. I have a question. Well, do you know why I smiled when you said that? Having some understanding of Malyuk's psychology, I can just imagine what's going on in his head. He probably sits there, and when they show him these numbers, right? There was 100 and something, what was it, 100, 1,100, or how much was it?
1,100 kilograms plus another 1,100 kilograms.
So he adds it up to 2,200. Damn, it wasn't enough. Next time, it'll probably be 5,000 or 10,000. Basically, he's already gathering explosives. What you're counting, what you're calculating here needs to be put in very simple terms. Vasily Malyuk is gathering new explosives for the Crimean bridge. He wants to do it for the 4th time. Apparently, he has some kind of fetish, some sort of inner drive that he wants to destroy the Crimean bridge. He wants to go down in history as the one who destroyed the Crimean bridge. And I think he's preparing not only himself for this, but all of Ukraine and the Russian Federation along with Putin. By the way, Dasha, I think that in Russia they are really afraid of Malyuk. Really afraid. I think Putin is afraid of Malyuk. I think his whole gang is afraid of Malyuk. It seems to me they probably have some kind of anti-Malyuk keychains, anti-Malyuk deodorants, Everything you can imagine. They already have it. By the way, I think we should already be sending them some merch, something a little explosive with images of Vasil Vasilovich Malyuk. But they're absolutely terrified. And he's creative, You have to give him credit. He's creative. One moment he's stuffing those trucks, then he's sending out scooters, then he's looking for explosives somewhere, some kind of sea baby, then he's figuring out which explosives would blow up the Crimean bridge better, and so on. They just sit there thinking, damn, he could stuff the Kremlin with those drones or fill up gum with those drones too. And now probably they're checking Ostankino and Solovyov every single time. Maybe Solovyov already has a drone from Malyuk hidden somewhere inside him. No one knows, you see? They're terribly afraid. And it's very obvious from how intensely they always react to Malyuk's statements. And at Malyuk and at Budanov, by the way. And at all of them, at our entire intelligence community and our security forces, at our law enforcement community, they're extremely afraid no matter what. And these strikes on Kyiv, on Dnipro, that terrible strike on our children, the strikes on Kharkiv, this is all out of helplessness. He can't do anything. He can't conquer. He can't subdue. He wants capitulation. He craves it. But there is no capitulation. He wants to remove Zelensky. He wants the destruction of Ukraine and Ukrainians, and he can't achieve it in any way. He's already trying everything, and nothing is working. And his biggest problem is that Putin has surrounded himself with people who are in part professionally unfit, who can't oversee the areas to which he has appointed them. Yes, they can steal, like Tsarikov, Shoigu, or like Timur Ivanov, who is now facing 14.5 years. But they can't do anything else. Timur Ivanov was put in charge of building Crimea and Mariupol. Where is Crimea and where is Mariupol? All that's left is ruin and devastation. But he stole the money, and they're not capable of anything else. Then Chemezov comes in, Rostek, Putin's buddy, a KGB guy, and says, "We don't have enough money, damn it. We can't do anything. Pantsir S-1, we've already got 48 of those missiles there. Sent a Pantsir S-1 to Iran. It didn't work, damn it, the Pantsir S-1. You see what I mean? They're all butterfingers over there. And he understands this perfectly well."
Sasha, we absolutely have to discuss the sabotage operation. These are trains loaded with military equipment, with fuel. We remember how a train carrying military equipment was attacked, dozens of tanks and other military hardware. And just in the last 2 days, information has emerged that the GUR, the main intelligence directorate, also eliminated, destroyed, blew up trains on the occupied territory of Ukraine in the south, carrying fuel and military equipment. This is also a successful operation. I wish things like this would happen on Russian territory as well. What do you think?
And why is this important? Besides the fact that we acknowledge that this is a successful operation. Why is it important? Because fuel, once you destroy the fuel, the equipment comes to a halt.
Yes.
So they arrive ready to fight, ready to push forward, ready to kill. Right? But they're stuck and they become an easy target for Ukrainian drones, Ukrainian missiles, artillery, mortars, and so on and so on. The equipment is immobilized. Can you launch an offensive, conduct offensive operations with equipment that's stuck? Remember February, March of 2022. Did they get bogged down in the swamps? They got bogged down. The fuel didn't arrive on time. There was no fuel. They marched in, uniforms on, carrying their dress backpacks, planning to parade through Kyiv. They came from everywhere. Sumy region, they pushed in, tried to go around somewhere near Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Kyiv. They pushed in from all directions. Well, did they get bogged down? And where are they all now? Are they having a parade there, or rather in hell at the parade? That's why this is important, Dasha. It's important because, and I keep repeating this, if we're being serious, I've said it many times, and I'll keep saying it. Right now, Putin's summer offensive is being disrupted. They're hitting the rear. They're striking fuel supplies, oil refineries, enterprises, and factories. They're targeting drone technology there, arsenals. They're hitting aircraft. They're hitting railways. Not the FSB, the one that was destroyed in Bryansk, in the Bryansk region, but they're hitting other railway lines of military importance, destroying entire freight trains with tanks. All of this is to disrupt the summer offensive. And notice, there are results. We've started to recapture settlements one after another in the Sumy region already.
When Trump came to power, the situation with missile and drone attacks worsened by more than 50%. All the military analysts wrote about this. So basically, Trump is just absolute evil, a horror that he brought into the world. In essence, Trump gave Putin his blessing for ongoing missile and drone strikes on our country's territory. So I just read about this now. Analysts are saying that Russia will soon be able to launch 500, 600 drones. They're capable of it, and they will do it. Sasha, what should we do? Because Trump just doesn't care about Ukraine. He gives his blessing to the attacks. He doesn't care at all. He's absolutely impotent when it comes to Putin.
Dasha, I don't have any cure. I don't have any pill to choose from, whether to take the blue one or the red one. I don't have any recipe for this. Look, I only know one thing. I suspect, or rather, I have a hypothesis that, in fact, the decision to stop the war against Iran was made, at least in part, in Moscow. When the Iranian foreign minister came to Moscow late at night and spoke with Putin, Putin didn't just betray him, he helped Trump reach an agreement and renegotiate. It wasn't Qatar negotiating, it was Putin who was negotiating. And Trump knows this perfectly well. And it seems to me that right now, a very difficult and turbulent situation is beginning for all of us. Putin will escalate, expand, and accelerate events, while Trump will turn a blind eye because Putin helped him with Iran. I don't know if there was an exchange, if there was a deal, maybe there was nothing at all. I don't want to lie. I don't want to exaggerate or overstate things. But it seems to me that Putin was involved. Now, negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will resume soon. And we'll see from these negotiations, has Putin become more willing to compromise after the events in Iran? Does he want to make a deal or not? And what will Trump's reaction be? Will he allow Putin to strike? You've noticed, haven't you, that there has been no reaction from Trump to the recent strikes on Kiev? But there was a reaction in the past. Well, fine, now Iran is done, he has peace. Deal, deal, deal. He has already achieved everything, or rather, he hasn't achieved a damn thing. He handed victory to a terrorist country which will still carry out attacks in Washington. I have no doubt about it. I don't know if there will be an attack near the White House, but in Washington, in New York, they will carry them out. They always do, these Iranians terrorist attacks. It's a terrorist country, a sponsor of terrorism. But he gave them victory. Or, well, a partial victory. Or rather, well, definitely not a defeat. Although this country could have, this regime to be precise, could already be lying in ruins and shambles. Vladimir Putin got involved. And we'll see in the near future what Donald Trump will do. And based on what he does, by analyzing his actions, we'll understand whether there was a deal with Putin regarding Iran or not. Did Putin sell his services? And what did he exchange his services for with Donald Trump?
Friends, Sasha and I are working for you, so every like, every comment, and every subscription is priceless. That's why we ask you to stay engaged. Let us know where you're watching from and what you think about all this. A few warm words in support of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the end of every stream, I always ask Sasha for some optimistic forecast about what will happen in the near future. Sasha, please share your optimism, maybe give our audience some hope, which is very important.
Ukraine will respond. Expect a response in the near future. I don't know from whom, Malyuk Budanov from Ukraine, expect a response. It's obvious that we will see more than one special operation in Russia in the coming days or weeks. It wasn't for nothing that Malyuk came out and said that they tried to do something in Kyiv. And that all these victims in Kyiv, in Dnipro, in Kharkiv, in Odessa, and in many other especially in Sumy, in many other Ukrainian regions, in cities, they will be avenged. There will be accountability for all of them, for this blood. It seems to me that despite Europe's toothlessness, despite this somewhat toothless NATO summit, yes, despite these wordings, despite Trump, Ukraine, no matter what, will receive a certain amount of aid and will be able to stand up to Putin. And Putin's offensive, I believe in this, I have no certainty, but I believe in it. And I want you to believe in it too, my friends. Because the last thing Putin can break is our hope for something better, for a good life without Putin. So I 100% believe that this will come true, that Putin's summer offensive will stall. And I am sure that after it stalls, very dark days will come for Putin. Because not only has karma not been cancelled, but neither have the laws of economics, nor the laws of the Almighty, nor the laws by which humanity lives. That's why I am certain that Vladimir Putin will be punished. But before he is punished, he will punish everyone around him. I don't know what position he'll put whom in, but he already has a line formed against the wall. Medvedev, Shoigu, and so on down the list. So expect very loud news from Russia, both literally and figuratively.
Our format, Dasha plus Sasha, Sasha plus Dasha, call it whatever you like, works just for you. Write a few kind words about the format. Let us know what you think. Top analyst Alexander Demchenko. Sasha, thank you very much and see you soon.
Until next time. Bye.